Welcome to Annie's Diamond Stories, where real-life stories shine with timeless lessons, faith, love, and hope. To our old and new subscribers, thank you for being part of this growing family. And if this is your first time here, you are warmly welcome. As Christmas draws near, many homes are filled with lights, decorations, and celebrations. But behind some doors, hearts are heavy, and peace feels far away. Today's story is not just about Christmas, it is about what happens when faith moves from tradition to reality, and when Jesus is welcomed not just into a season, but into a home. Stay with us till the end. This story may speak to your heart more than you expect. This is the story of a family that looked fine on the outside, but was quietly struggling within. They celebrated Christmas every year. They believed in Jesus, at least in name, but faith had never become personal, daily, or real. As pressure grew and strength ran out, they discovered something life-changing. Belief alone is not enough, faith must be lived. This story reminds us that Christmas is not about perfection, it is about presence, and when Jesus is truly welcomed, even ordinary homes can be transformed. From the outside, the Okafor family looked stable. They lived in a quiet neighborhood where Christmas lights had begun to appear on rooftops and fences. Each evening, the streets glowed softly as families prepared for the season. Children laughed outside. Music floated gently through open windows. Their children attended school. Bills were paid. Most of the time. To anyone passing by, the house looked like one more family preparing for Christmas. Yet behind the closed doors of that house, peace was absent. The home was filled with movement but empty of joy. Mornings were rushed. Evenings were tense. Conversations were brief and carefully chosen. Silence often said more than words. Laughter felt rare and short-lived, as though it no longer belonged there. Christmas decorations were unpacked out of habit, not excitement. The tree stood in the corner, decorated carefully but without enthusiasm. Lights were switched on, yet something deeper remained dark. The house looked festive, but it did not feel alive. Faith existed in the family, but only as a background idea. Jesus was respected, but not trusted. Belief was inherited, not practiced. God was acknowledged, but not relied upon. Christmas had always been celebrated in that home, but Jesus had remained at the edge, present in tradition, absent in dependence. No one realized that the change they desperately needed would not come from more money, stricter discipline, or better planning. It would come from belief becoming real. Problems did not arrive suddenly. They crept in quietly, unnoticed at first, like shadows stretching longer as the year drew closer to its end. The father's business began struggling. Customers reduced, contracts slowed, debts increased, confidence weakened. Each evening, stress followed him home, sitting silently at the dinner table. Thoughts of unpaid bills and uncertain futures filled his mind, especially as Christmas expenses approached. The mother carried the emotional weight of the household. She balanced responsibilities with exhaustion. She planned meals, managed school schedules, and quietly tried to stretch what little they had. She smiled often, especially in front of the children, but the smile grew thinner with time. The children sensed the tension without understanding it. Homework felt harder, sleep became restless, questions increased, about money, about moods, about silence, but answers were unclear. Christmas songs played softly in the background, but the house felt anxious. Calendars filled with school events and family expectations, yet hearts felt empty. The house became loud with activity, yet emotionally distant. Fear began influencing decisions, anxiety shaped reactions, silence filled the spaces where warmth once lived. Eventually, effort stopped working. Hard work did not solve everything. Positive thinking did not remove pressure. Planning did not restore peace. As Christmas drew closer, expectations increased while strength decreased. Smiles were forced. Conversations avoided anything too honest. Everyone felt tired, yet no one knew how to stop. The family reached a point where trying harder only made them more exhausted. That was when something shifted, not externally, internally. Late one night, when the house was quiet and Christmas lights blinked softly through the window, the family faced an uncomfortable truth. For the first time, belief in Jesus stopped being an idea and became a question. Not a religious question, a survival question. They realized they had known about Jesus for years, but had never truly trusted him. Faith had been familiar, but distant, comforting in theory, absent in practice. Living without trust in God had quietly drained them. Faith entered the home without noise, no sudden miracles, no instant relief, just a decision. One quiet evening, as the world outside prepared for celebration, the family chose honesty over pretending. They admitted fear, they admitted weariness, they admitted that control had failed them. They chose humility over pride, dependence over self-reliance. Prayer became intentional, not rushed, not religious, honest, sometimes clumsy, sometimes quiet, but real. Scripture became guidance, not decoration. Words once ignored began to speak. Jesus became present, not as tradition, but as help. Faith was no longer reserved for emergencies. It became daily. The house did not change overnight, but the atmosphere did. Small changes appeared first. The father became calmer. His identity slowly loosened its grip on success and performance. Trust replaced panic, even when answers were still unclear. The mother found rest returning slowly. She released worries she had carried silently for years. Strength replaced anxiety, not because problems vanished, but because she no longer carried them alone. The children felt safety again, not because life improved instantly, but because fear stopped dominating the home. Christmas mornings felt quieter, less pressured, more present. The family learned how to pause instead of react. Faith reshaped responses before it reshaped circumstances. Control had been the family's coping mechanism. Belief in Jesus taught them something new. Trust. They learned to wait without despair, to plan without panic, to hope without pressure. Challenges still existed, bills still arrived, problems still surfaced, but the weight felt lighter. The home slowly became a place of refuge instead of tension. Even during the busiest season of the year, provision did not arrive dramatically. Instead, it arrived steadily. Small opportunities appeared, clearer direction followed. The father found work that aligned with his values, even if it required patience. The mother discovered clarity and confidence she had lost. She learned peace in small victories. The children flourished emotionally. Confidence replaced fear. Curiosity replaced worry. The family realized something important. Jesus did not just provide solutions, he provided stability. Some wounds were not visible. Years of stress had created emotional distance. Faith began repairing what pressure had damaged. The family learned to forgive more easily, to listen more carefully, to speak more gently. Belief in Jesus reshaped communication. The home grew warmer, like a house where the lights finally matched the atmosphere inside. Life tested their belief again. Another challenge appeared, unexpected and uncomfortable. This time, panic did not return. The family had learned where to stand. Faith had become rooted. They faced uncertainty without losing peace. They trusted without demanding control. Jesus had become more than belief. He had become foundation. Transformation rarely stays hidden. Neighbors noticed calm replacing chaos. Friends noticed hope replacing fear, especially during a season when many struggled quietly. The family's responses stood out. They did not preach, they lived. Belief in Jesus had reshaped their character. The children carried the clearest evidence of change. They grew confident. They became compassionate. They learned resilience. Christmas became meaningful, not because of gifts, but because of peace. Faith became something they understood through experience, not instruction. Jesus was no longer distant. He was real. The family stopped measuring success by money alone. They valued peace, unity, purpose. Problems became challenges, not threats. Failures became lessons, not defeats. Belief in Jesus redefined their priorities. Gratitude entered naturally. Small blessings mattered. Ordinary days felt meaningful. Quiet evenings became sacred. The family learned to celebrate progress instead of perfection. Faith created contentment. Belief did not stop with them. The family shared hope through kindness, support, and consistency, especially with others struggling during the holidays. Faith became contagious, not through words, but through peace. The house was still the same building, but it felt different. Love lived there again. Laughter returned. Peace stayed. Faith had rebuilt the home from the inside out. The family reflected on their journey. Nothing magical happened. No shortcuts were taken. No problems disappeared instantly. Belief in Jesus changed how they lived. That changed everything. The Okafor family did not escape life. They learned how to walk through it. Belief in Jesus did not promise ease, it promised presence, and that presence brought peace, direction, healing, and hope. Christmas did not change their circumstances, it changed their center. Homes change when belief becomes real. Families grow when faith becomes lived. When Jesus is welcomed, life does not become perfect, but it becomes anchored. Faith does not remove storms, it gives strength to stand. Belief in Jesus does not guarantee comfort, it guarantees purpose, and purpose transforms lives. This story teaches us that faith does not remove life's challenges, but it changes how we face them. When belief in Jesus becomes real, fear loses its control, and peace begins to grow. Even before circumstances change, we learn that true provision is not only financial, but emotional and spiritual stability. The story also shows that children learn faith best through what they experience, not just what they are told. Most importantly, it reminds us that Christmas is not complete until Jesus is welcomed into the center of our homes, decisions, and relationships. If this story touched your heart, encouraged you, or reminded you of what truly matters, please subscribe to Annie's Diamond Stories. Here, we share life-changing stories, family-centered lessons, faith that meets real-life hope that shines like a diamond. Don't forget to like, share, and leave a comment. Your story might be the encouragement someone else needs this season. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss a new story. Thank you for watching. And remember, when faith becomes real, lives are never the same. Merry Christmas.